Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Rotherhithe in southeast London to New Cross in South London. This ride takes about 20 minutes and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport, the same journey also takes around 20 minutes, so cycling is a sensible way to do it. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. If you'd like to contribute as well, you can find a link in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting just outside the Mayflower pub and we're going to head down Rotherhithe Street. Some of this street is cobbled, which looks really nice, but it isn't great for riding on, so I hope you're prepared for a bit of a bumpy ride at the beginning. For the first section of this route we're going to be following Cycleway 14, and if you look on the ground there you'll see it says C14 and there's another sign, a green and blue sign up there, also pointing you in the right direction. This section of Cycleway 14, which is a signposted Transport for London route, is quite variable and it mostly goes on back streets and on shared paths. The back streets that C14 uses are quiet pretty much all of the time, so you're not going to have to worry about any traffic. Some of the shared cycle paths that it uses later in the route have some drawbacks which I'll point out to you as we get to them. But there is a really cool section later in the video that runs by the River Thames with a great view, and I can't wait to show it to you. Now, the path that we're on here is relatively straightforward. You cycle on the left hand side and people walk on the right hand side, but it gradually gets more confusing as you cross the road here, as both sides of this path are actually labelled for cycle routes. On the right you can see there are actually faded markings for National Cycle Route 4, and on the left we had Cycleway 14. So it's not clear which side is for pedestrians and which side is for people on bikes. As a result, it's even more important than normal to be forgiving of people who are walking on the wrong side of the path, because there isn't really a wrong side of the path in this case. Now we're heading into an unremarkable alleyway that's called Brass Tally Alley. That's quite a fun name for an alleyway, but it's also evocative of the area's history. Rotherhithe was of course part of the Docklands, where lots of ships would come in and dock workers would come and work. What's a brass tally? Well, it's a little brass token that was given to dock workers to show that they turned up for the day, kind of like punching your card, and they would later go and exchange their brass tally for their wages. I haven't been able to work out whether that was a historic name or whether it's just something that the developers who redeveloped the area in the 80s and 90s decided to give it to remind people of the history. Now, this bit's probably the worst part of the whole route. You can see this chicane here, and also if you're doing this route in the autumn, winter, or frankly spring and maybe even summer, there'll be a lot of muddy leaves on the ground here. That makes it really slippery there and kind of dangerous, to be honest. You need to come to a dead halt there and really be careful as you negotiate that chicane. To be honest, I think it should really be taken out, not just because I don't like it, but if you're running down there in the dark, that black wire chicane is going to be almost invisible, and if you don't know it's there, it would be very easy just to ride right into it. I don't want to be too negative about this section of C14. It is a pleasant ride, and it does, if you know, have street lights throughout most of it, so you can ride it at night. It's just a little bit frustrating to see so many problems along it that would be really easy to fix or just not happen in the first place. Now we are going on Bonding Yard Walk, and that's another interesting name that recalls the history of the Docklands. You might think that a bonding yard has something to do with building boats, like maybe bonding the keel or something like that, I don't know. But you would be wrong. A bonding yard actually comes from the word bond, as in a financial instrument, a bond that you would pay, like a government bond or a bank bond. What a bonding yard was a warehouse where you could keep goods when they'd come off a ship without having paid your import duties. So instead of paying the import duty as soon as the goods make landfall, you first move them to a bonding yard, and then you pay them when they're in the yard, and you do the bonding, e.g. the paying of the bond, in the yard, hence bonding yard. And that's a lot more convenient for everyone than having tax officials tripping over and getting everyone's way at the dockside. Now if you look dead ahead, you'll see the towers of Canary Wharf dead ahead of you. Really nice view there. And we've also cycled past Greenland Pier just here. And if you ever want to get to Canary Wharf, you can take a boat from Greenland Pier using the Cross River service on the Thames Clippers. It's £3.80 on your Oyster card. There are also river bus services calling there, going slightly further afield. Now, if you took a good look at the map at the beginning of the video, you probably noticed that this isn't the most direct route that I've ever done. We've taken a bit of a detour to go along the river here, but I think it's absolutely worth it, and I think this view is testament to that. You don't even really get full justice from the video here. You kind of have to come down yourself to see it, because my camera's on my bike, it's strapped to the handlebars and it's pointing straight ahead, so you don't get to see what's to the side of me. But when you're riding along, I mean, obviously keep your eyes on what's in front of you, but you can kind of look at the view as you go, and it's really, really nice and really pleasant. If I had to commute to work down here every day, I think I would be very, very happy. This section is also obviously completely traffic free, but do remember that it's shared with pedestrians, so make sure you give everyone plenty of space. It is nice and wide though, so I don't think you should have a problem doing that. Make sure you check out the massive cannons on the left, by the way, not something you see every day. On your right, as we go back into the road, you'll notice that the buildings are starting to look a little bit Georgian, and these are some of the more original buildings from the area. Frankly, I do think a better job could have been done of the way that Rotherhithe was redeveloped. Obviously, there was a lot of vacant dockland, and there's plenty of space to put houses and such like that, but a lot of it is very low density. The buildings aren't particularly nice, and there's so many cars parked around, particularly on this estate here. Just look at all this parking blocking our way. There's even double parking along here, which makes it hard to spot the path that we need to turn into on the right, which is just past these people and blocked by this silver Ford. I think this scaffolding has come down now. I shot this video a few months ago, so hopefully when you go through there it should be a little bit more open. This park is called Pepys Park, and of course named after Samuel Pepys, the famous London diarist. Why is it named such? He worked in the Navy office, not here, but he did often visit here, and he visited here because there was a Navy provisions yard on the site, which no longer exists, but there's the Pepys estate and the Pepys Park, which have replaced it. It's all linked to the heritage of the Rotherhithe dockyards. Now we're leaving Rotherhithe and we're going to be going on Cycleway 4 for a little bit. I say a little bit, a very little bit. You've got this excellent two-way cycle track, and then you turn right and you use this Toucan crossing, which you're allowed to cycle over, to access Gosterwood Street. Gosterwood Street is closed at one end. It's a nice, pretty Victorian street with some social housing as well on the left. And because it's closed at one end, it doesn't have any through traffic on it at all, and you're really unlikely to run into any cars. For those of you who like watching the videos but don't necessarily remember every single detail of them, I would definitely recommend just committing Gosterwood Street to memory, because it is a really useful link from Cycleway 4, which is going to be great in and of itself, between Cycleway 4 and Cycleway 10, which is what we're very, very briefly on now. This is the route of C10, also used to be called Quiet Way 1, and that's a great way of getting between those two. But we've now left Cycleway 10 again, so that's not one for today, and we're going to be going onto Woodpecker Road. Now, if you've ever watched a video on this channel that goes to New Cross, you'll know that I love Woodpecker Road. It is effectively a massive pedestrianised street running through a housing estate. It's nice and wide, plenty of space for people to walk and also cycle. I kind of wish that more of our streets and estates were laid out like this, with effectively a traffic-free corridor running through the middle of it. If you could get around like this in more neighbourhoods, then I think that cycling and walking would probably be the default choice for a lot more people, and we'd all be better off for it. Now, as you get to the end of Woodpecker Road, you need to cross Sanford Street. I just go straight across as there's no traffic. But if you come at a busier time, you can always use the Toucan crossing just to the right there. It's a signal controlled crossing that you're allowed to cycle on, and you just press the button and it'll send you straight into Fordham Park here, which is another really pleasant park just on the edge of New Cross. Of course, we're coming close to the end of our destination here, so just a reminder that if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe on this channel. I post new videos pretty much every week, and all the videos are a meld of finding your way around on a bike with a little bit of history as well thrown in and local context. If you are interested in new developments in cycle infrastructure in London, you also definitely need to hit subscribe, as I always go and check out new infrastructure as it opens, and there's a lot of that coming as there's plenty under construction in London at the moment. Now, unfortunately, to get right in New Cross, we have to go briefly on Pagnell Street, which is not a nice road to cycle on, but it's only for a second. An alternative, particularly in the other direction, is going on Clifton Rise, which is at the other end of Fordham Park. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a cycle contraflow on it, it's just one way at the moment. Although I understand the local council is looking at putting in a cycle contraflow there, which will make it two-way for bikes. And that will make getting into New Cross a lot easier if you're coming from the Fordham Park direction. And I really hope they do that, because it will make things a lot less stressful going on Pagnell Street, because I'm not a fan of that one. But overall, I think that route is excellent. I really enjoyed doing this video. I think I managed to get quite a bit of history into this one, and I know that some people like the history, so do give it a thumbs up if you liked that, and do leave me a comment to let me know what sort of balance of history and cycle wayfinding you like in videos. Once again, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. It is free and it's the best way to support the channel. If you really like what I'm doing on here, you can also consider contributing to the Patreon. Thank you so much to those of you who already do so. For those of you who don't, there's a link in the description below the video. I'll see you all again next time.